What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to Nightmare Chess. We are continuing our bots challenge series on chess.com. We're currently facing Wendy, the first advanced bot from Canada, who is rated 1500. In our last video, we beat her as white, and now we are going to play her as black. So let's go ahead and get into the game. All right, let's go ahead and bring out the knight. Defending the pawn, I'm going to go ahead and go to d5. Let me go ahead and bring out the c pawn to c5. All right, let's see. So you've got two attacks here on the d5 pawn, but there's also two defenders. So we're okay there right now. Now I can bring up this e pawn to defend, create a pawn chain. I think I'm going to take with the c5 pawn first. All right, and now there are three attackers on the d5 pawn, knight, pawn, and queen. Now I could bring out my knight to c6, attacking the queen. And I will probably do that. Let me make sure here that I'm safe. Okay, queen moves to c5. That's an interesting move. Still keeping pressure on the d5 pawn. Now here I am tempted to play e5. Takes more room in the center. Also attacks the queen. Normally I would play this move, right? To create the pawn chain. Maybe that's the better way to go. Maybe I'm getting ahead of myself here. Let me think for a second. If here, the three attackers, so I would lose adding a defender, which means they can take here, but Wendy has to address the attack first. So let's say she moves, let's say I go here. Wendy moves, she wouldn't be able to sit there. And so can possibly sit here, which would still add the attack, still having three attackers. And at that point, I guess I can bring out the bishop to d6 to protect that pawn. But then I would be blocking the defender of the d5 pawn. So just in order to avoid some complication, play solid. Let's just move to e6 for now, attacking the queen. Right, she moves to this square to keep attack on this pawn here on d5, but because we only moved up one square, we create the pawn chain and we have three defenders, 1, 2, 3. Here we might be tempted to bring out the bishop to c7 to keep some kind of trick here to attack the queen, but we would just lose the b7 pawn. I am tempted to just push the queen back. I'm wondering if we can trap her somehow, but probably not. She does have this square. I'm going to go for the queen attack. Okay, so queen moves to a4. No longer keeping the vision on the d5 pawn. So now there's only two attackers on there with three defenders. So that's something less to worry about as of right now. Let's just bring out the bishop to e7 with plans of castling. And here I'm going to develop the bishop, because if knight takes my knight, I take back. Queen hits us with a brutal fork between the king and the rook. So I'll bring out the bishop, defending the knight. Once the bishop's here, takes. I'll figure out what to take back with there. Let's see. Takes. It doesn't really mess up my pawn structure, except I'd have an isolated pawn. However, it would open up the file here. I think I'll take with the bishop. Attacking the queen, I don't want any isolated pawns right now. If I were to take with the pawn, my drawback was to have this pawn all by itself. Very defenseless and lonely, and I don't want that. I want all my pawns to be in good company. And of course, the queen has came back to keep the consistent attack on this d5 pawn. This is telling me that this d5 pawn is a very important and key part of this game. And perhaps losing this central position here would be a huge blunder. Probably the whole reason for this kind of opening. But again, 1, 2, 3, 4. At this point, we've got 4 defenders of the d5 pawn. So if I can just keep that advantage, that would be great. And right now we're not up any pawns. It's still very much tied. Thinking of bringing the bishop here now because now we have 1, 2, 3 defenders. 1, 2, 3. So that would break even. And it's just a much better square for the bishop to watch over. And let's see here. I guess the only thing that could happen there is the bishop could come down. I would just threaten it. Takes. I would probably take back with the queen to avoid messing up the pawn structure. The bishop could even sit on c5. Maybe that's the way to go. Maybe I'm going to castle first. Okay, we're going to take back with the pawn. Try to keep control of this center here. And now there's only one attacker here. And of course we are tempted to just quickly push. Knight can probably either move away, move back, move to the side. We have vision on that square. Here. I think we'd be okay there. If we lose the center, we, could be fatal to us. And I haven't looked at much of this opening theory, so. Maybe now we perhaps slide the rook out to the e file. This is a half open file here. Queen slides over to b1. What is the intention of that move? Maybe to come out here or something? I mean, I don't think she has anything over here, not yet anyway. I'm thinking of maybe moving the queen over to b6. That does have 2 attacks on the f2 pawn and the b2 pawn, with plans of like bringing the knight over this way and maybe trying to take the f2 pawn, because we can't block the whole time, we got to create some initiative. Let me think of, if I were to push this pawn, I'm thinking the knight would want to move over, but I have 2 defenders on that square, or attackers, however you want to look at it. So here, here, here. I mean, that would somewhat work. If knight were to go here or here, Wendy would lose the knight. The knight would have to go here, and I think at that point I have like her pieces are kind of crammed up. Oh, we saw that big arrow thing again. Look, there it is. Is that how you do it? Oh, that's how you do it. I figured it out in this video, guys. I think you just kind of wave your mouse around left and right. Maybe not. I thought I figured it out. Oh, I think I know how. You do the right click to make the arrow, and then you wiggle. Oh, apparently not. I thought I cracked the code there. Oh, no. There's a mosquito in here. I think I got the mosquito, guys. Sorry, I had to cut the video there. Okay, so again, if I push, I don't see many squares for the knight to go to. So let's try to strike. Now, I'm a very low rated player, but I think we're okay here. I mean, look at Wendy's pieces. White has, she has his bishop, but other than that, this bishop has been blocked in the whole game. This queen doesn't really have much going on. Rook hasn't moved, rook isn't moving. So the knight and bishop are still somewhat stuck. So I think she's going to start developing maybe she'll probably move the e2 pawn pretty soon. Try to get the bishop out. Either way, if she moves 1, we can take. If she moves 2, we can en passant. Maybe we start the initiative now of this b6 move right here. Defending this pawn, eyeing this one, and then plans of bringing the bishop out to attack this bishop. Okay, and queen comes out to the square I was guessing that she would land on, d3. Just not sure what she's doing there. We're defending this pawn. She might have this or something. If I were to bring the bishop out here. Oh, okay. Knight can sit here, I guess, but that would just lose the pawn. And I'm also tempted to bring the rook out to d8 here. Defending this pawn again. And if the knight were to move over to c3, then we can take it with threats of the rook on the queen. I think that's okay. Interesting move. I can maybe try to relocate the knight here. D4 pawn is still defended by the queen. And then maybe move over to the b4 square. And the knight would be watched by my bishop and queen. And the plan would be to find a way to strike here with the knight, so that I can give a fork between the king and rook. Maybe we try that first. I think I'm going to first open this file up, maybe put an attack on the queen. She'll very likely relocate. She can go here, here, but then my plan is to try to slide a rook over for this brutal knight attack. Very likely the bishop will take. We can hit with a check. So let's try that first. Queen moves over. Oh, what's the attack? What's the threat here? The knight is being watched by the rook and is no longer... But we can no longer bring the knight over to b4 because the bishop is now blocking. Actually, no, I can bring it over because the bishop would be watching the knight. Am I okay to do that? Let's see. I think so. Okay, I should have moved the rook over first, because I forgot about this attack. If I bring the knight back to c6, it continues to defend this pawn, and we still keep the 3 defenders there, which I think keeps the position strong. Maybe we try that. I was looking at this move, but I thought the bishop had a runaway square, but I just blocked the runaway square. So now we're going to have to move the bishop if we don't want to lose it. And then maybe this will come, but we can move the queen away. Maybe this. Okay. Can also bring the bishop here. Maybe try to take this pawn back, so that we can be up a pawn. Because at this point, the game's still pretty much tied. I mean, I'm sure the eval bar says different, but we're both 2 pawns and a knight down. Maybe I go for that. Literally just mentioned this move and forgot about it. I don't think I see an immediate threat because I can probably take with the knight, except there's 2 attackers there, so maybe not. Takes, and then I wouldn't be able to take back. All I'm able to do is move the queen at this point. What if I were to come up? There's also this or this, and at which point I can't actually bring the bishop there. It doesn't actually work. So I think I'm going to have to slide back perhaps to a7, keeping the attack. And now queen is eyeing this bishop here on the 3rd rank. And there's a lot of blocking and moving around going on. I think I'll just take the knight. Although my bishop is being much more useful than this knight here. This knight isn't doing much, so maybe I'd be getting rid of a good bishop for a bad knight. It is doing a pretty good job there. I think. I don't know. At this point, I have to move the bishop somewhere. I think this is an ideal square, right? For the bishop. Protecting the knight, having some crazy vision here. Let's see. What is this queen doing? Maybe now I continue with this idea. No. Even if I were to get here somehow with the knight, well, if the king were to move here, I can just bring our pawn up, hitting with a check. King would have to move again, which would bring it closer to out of its defense, but I still don't know that that really does much. If I were to go here and then strike, knight could take, rook could take here to the rook, which would be bad because if we were to take back, then queen has this. I think most of my pieces are fairly coordinated. Every piece is protected right now. So maybe I come back one square. I do realize she's defending, but so is this knight. Maybe there's a better square to move her to. Okay, and white finally moves the e pawn down, threatening the attack on the central square. That's been there the whole game. Knight is still defending the square, so if takes, takes. I think I'm probably going to take, because if I were to like add another defender, can this pawn come down? I don't think so, unless this pawn comes down first. The queen would be able to watch this square. But if that were the case, I'd just go for the take. Now if I were to strike, well, there's two defenders here, so it doesn't work. I'm thinking of this, but it would just ruin my pawn structure. Really don't know what to do here. Maybe bring the queen to a different square, b7, just to, oh, no, no, no. This would not be a good file to sit my queen at because of this rook. So maybe I bring the queen over to d6 instead. Castle. What if I were to bring the bishop to the e4 square, just kind of like trying to lock in white's position, minimize the moves? I also can do the same on this side. So this is potential that I'm thinking of, potential move. Are there any other potential moves? Well, there's this move here in the center. Maybe the center is the way to go. Maybe now, this pawn we've been keeping in the center the entire game, maybe we're okay to push now? Although this pawn is making it hard for this knight to come out. So if we were to push up, then this knight can come out and go around the pawn without issue. Is it time to relocate this knight, perhaps? If I were to come here, bishop would take, then queen would take. I think Wendy has plans of this, eyeing this square, perhaps. Which at that point we have this or this. Although I'm trying not to move any of these pawns. Takes, takes, bring the bishop out. Takes, check. King moves. Maybe here. Not there. Here. I'm saying the queen would be there. Eyeing this. That's pretty much it. And this, maybe. At this point, I don't really know. Maybe we have to start going for the trades. I'm just nervous about it. And now what I was thinking is bishop to d4. If takes, come back with the queen. Check. All right, defends with the knight. I thought the king was just going to move away. But now this is a potential target. This is a target. This is a target. She's got isolated pawns everywhere. Our pieces are still very much coordinated. Everything is watching everything else, so I think we're fairly safe. Can I take this pawn without any issue? Maybe first, before I start taking pieces, I have to push the queen away and prevent my bishop from being taken. If I were to move here, attacking the queen, she can just move here. At that point, maybe I bring this h-pawn up, and then I can tuck the bishop away, and I'd be even safer at that point, I believe. I think now, so I'm going to move the h-pawn to h6. All right, rook slides over to the d file. I believe I can take this pawn here. Takes. I think I'm good there. Just double checking. Now we go ahead and tuck the bishop away. Offering the trade of rooks. And I just thing to keep in mind is if the rook takes, my knight would take back. Queen would have this move to attack the b pawn. So at this point, because I have a better position, I believe, I am tempted to just go for all the trades now. But maybe that would ruin the position I have. What if I go here, attacking the queen? Queen would move again. And I can go for some kind of check. Here, I think I'd be okay. Only thing to think about is this move here, takes. At that point, I would take the bishop. So I hope I'm okay there. Also attacking here. Okay, so she moves over. I still have this move. Oh, actually, I don't. If I were to take this pawn, rook can just come here. So maybe I go for the check first. Queen's going to take. Maybe take with the rook at that point. Also, my queen's watching this bishop as well now. My queen's attacking. We've got two attackers on this bishop. So maybe the check is the way to go. Here, however, queen can still take because I might not have time to take back because of this check. So takes, check. Queen would just take there. Because I don't have runaway squares yet, unless I push this pawn one square up. Maybe I take this white's pawn with the bishop, attacking the queen again, but mainly just to gain a pawn. And she cannot take here because I have two defenders there. Knight would be watching the bishop. I can go for the check now here because of the two attackers here. And if rook were to take, then I have running squares now. Let's see. Check. Takes. Check. I think that works. And now we can take with the rook. And that's a trade. The knight would trade off there. And now our bishop is also undefended. So let me see. Check. Knight takes. Move the bishop back. I think we'll be okay there. Queen watches the knight. I'm thinking of a move like this maybe to continue to defend the knight and move out of the attack of this knight. I would need to move to a light square to watch the bishop as well. My queen's doing a lot of work here is the problem. Can also go for this, which is kind of like a counter attack. So if takes, then takes. And at this point I am up, so maybe that could be a way to go. Why not? Now I'm definitely up 2 pawns, so if I can just keep this advantage without losing any of my pieces, that would be great. Question is how to take this pawn here. Knight only has this move, only needs one move to defend the pawn. How many moves do I need? Let's see. If I were to come either from here or from here, I need 2 moves. Knight moves here, attacking this square. I'm going to try that first. This also brings my knight back into a safe position, being watched by my pawn. Trying to keep everything defended, even if I'm up. Move the bishop. Take the pawn. We're doing good. We'll come back down now. Can't go here, that would be losing the knight. Now we will march the pawns up. Hopefully we can get one of these pawns to promote. I'm going to bring up the F pawn. I have 2 ways to tuck the bishop. Start marching the king this way. Let's take this way, I think. Actually, I don't really need to take just yet, I don't believe. Let's keep marching. Takes back. Okay, so if I were to push here, knight has... Thinking if he has anything to attack these pawns, but this pawn's protected by this knight, and this pawn's protected by that, obviously. So I think we're going to be able to promote. If I move here, what does the knight have? I don't think it has anything to get there in time. So I think we did it, guys. Tuck the bishop away. All right, this was definitely not an easy game. I definitely did some overthinking, but we managed to be able to take the W in the end, and that's the important part. Let's see. I'm gonna go for the trades now. I'm trying to kick the knight away so I can promote 2 queens. There's a check. I'll just move away. All right, guys, we did it. We took Wendy out as black. I know that took longer than expected, but we did have to make sure we played solidly there. That is going to be it for today's video. We took Wendy out as white and as black. The next advanced pawn is going to be, let's go ahead and take a look, is going to be Antonio, rated 1500 from Paraguay. And that will be our next challenger. And we'll see how we do against Antonio. Thanks for watching, guys. Make sure to like and subscribe and follow my journey. I'm currently rated somewhere around 950 elo on chess.com. And after we face a few more of the advanced bots, we're going to go ahead and move on and do a speed run to go ahead and try to raise our elo and see how far we can get. Hopefully to 1,000, then 1,200. So that's it, guys. See y'all later.